Arthur Bryant's is probably up there because I like their brisket.
We're going all over the place now.
Woodyard is my favorite barbecue restaurant to go. I don't know if you've had Woodyard. Me and my wife actually had them cater our wedding because we love it so much. But Woodyard is my favorite.
Well, I'll tell you what Drew Gooden. I'll tell you one thing Drew Gooden said. The other one, I don't know if it's too clean even for the internet. He said, of course, Darren Smith with 810 had just brought in Gates Barbecue for the big three guys. Julius Irving, Ice T. Ice Cube, and all these guys. And Darren's in there, and Drew goes, Gates, you're losing me. It's Q39 now, baby, and Darren's going crazy. So, hey, Drew Gooden, great KU basketball player, Kansan guy. So you got to try it.
We'll try and get to that. My dilemma is I have two cousins that own restaurants in Kansas City, and neither of them are barbecue restaurants, and so I try and be loyal to them and get to their places when I can, but we sure do enjoy our travels up to and through Kansas City.
Well, switch over to basketball here real quick. Did you ever call Jenny Miller's games now, Jenny Croy at Pitt State?
Yeah, Jenny. I know Jenny well. I was I'd gone back to college about the time she was playing. I started school in the late 80s, and then I was out of school for a few years. And then when I decided to try and get into broadcasting, I went back to school there when Jenny was playing. And, in fact, I remember the night, a home game, when she broke our school's career scoring record. She graduated as the all-time leader. And I was doing student broadcast at that time, and I ran into her in the lobby before the game, and she was about 30 points away from it. And we had a couple of road games after that. Well, you want to break those records at home? And I told Jenny, I said, hey, quit screwing around, go out and get 30 tonight, and let's get out of here. And she knocked down about 8 threes, and she scored 33 points, and she was the career scoring leader. And, I know Jenny Miller, and she was on some great teams, but what a good person.
Well, she is, and I call her college games now, so I'm honored to do that. And I called her daughter's games through as Trenton High School went to the state championship last year. So very close to the family. And you guys don't know this, but she's in 4 Hall of Fames now. 4.
Wow.
She just got inducted in the MIAA. What is she? Is she even 46 yet? I mean, she's still young, and she's in the Pitt State Hall of Fame, MIAA, Kearney, and then also she's in the Hall of Fame as a team Hall of Fame at North Central Missouri College up in Trenton. So, very special player.
Wow.
The other thing was she got to be the lone representative for Division II and take on the guys in the 3-point contest in what year would that have been? It was her senior year.
Well, her senior year, like 96 or something like that, 96 or 97. And what I remember about that, I was working at a bar in downtown Pittsburgh. And, of course, we had that on. We knew she was going to be in it. And Miller being her maiden name, that's all we could serve that night was Miller products. There was the house rule. And we cheered hard for Jenny that night. And she did get through the first round. She got beat in the semifinals, but she did all right for a small-town kid on a big stage.
Well, yeah, what an honor. I mean, to get to go to. Can you imagine how? I asked her. She said it was nerve-wracking. You're there in this. Where was it? I don't even remember where it was at, but a big stadium and in front of all these people shooting threes. But I just wanted to bring that up. What a special player. The other thing is last time Kim Anderson was here for a AAU event at the Hy-Vee Arena, and if you haven't been here yet, when one trip to Kansas City, come in and check it out. You won't believe what it looks like now. But he was actually in my studio here. He was on the phone, and he recognized me from when I was covering up at Mizzou, and he came in trying to talk on the phone, and we ended up sitting down here talking. I said, congratulations, you're finally on the good side of the state line. So, but real quick, how did you feel? How excited were you when they hired him? And, it's got to be a pleasure to get to work with him on a daily basis too.
Yeah, he's a really good guy, and I knew Coach A from his time at Central Missouri, of course, with our work through Pitt State Radio. I also host a 5 o'clock show, and so it's not uncommon on our show that I will have maybe coaches from teams that Pitt State is getting ready to play, either in football or basketball. And so I'd gotten to know Coach A little bit, and I just felt terrible for how things went at Mizzou because there was so much turnover and turmoil at Missouri at that time, and he just really was never given a fair chance. I know he's a much better basketball coach than that record showed. He's a really good guy, and he brings that instant credibility when you talk about getting a program. And in his first 2 years at Pitt State, we've been 17-13 in both years. We've had some really high-scoring teams. We haven't been very good defensively, and they've had some really good physical talent, but we were a little bit top-heavy. And so this is a year, again, it's somewhat new as far as I think 5 transfers have been brought in, and also he has 2 new coaches. He's had coaching turnover already, and so we'll have a different look this year, but we'll be a more balanced team and I think a more complete team. But it's great talking basketball with him because just the good old stories about the Big 8, the Mizzou-KU rivalry, so many things, and Kansas City's right in the heart of it all. He talks often about the Big 8 holiday tournament municipal. I mean, he goes back to the days before there was a conference tournament, and the Big 8 teams would get together over Christmas break and play a holiday tournament down at Municipal. That's where we play our conference tournament now. And I know Kemper Arena, of course, he's played there as well, which is now your Hy-Vee Arena. And so he's just a wealth of knowledge and just what a great basketball guy.
Well, maybe when you come up for the conference basketball tournament, we can get you in studio and maybe do a little more in-depth interview.
That'd be fine, and I'll tell you the truth. I'm hoping to get to that arena. We're hoping because the MIAA has moved their conference volleyball tournament to Hy-Vee Arena, and their conference offices are, of course, out there now as well. So I'm hoping to see Pitt State in the volleyball tournament, and whether or not I would be able to broadcast it depends on the day of the week. But I'm hoping that Pitt State gets a chance to experience that because what a neat thing for the MIAA and for Division II athletes to get to play conference tournaments in places like that, in places like Municipal Auditorium, for football athletes to get the chance to play in an NFL venue. The MIAA is pretty good athletics, and you can attract a lot better kids knowing that they have some of these opportunities.
Well, Mike Racy and Stephen St. John's boys are now calling games on the U for me with our program we got through St. Pius High School. So you know Mike Racy and Larry House do a great job too with the MIAA. But those guys threw a heck of a day there today, didn't he?
Yeah, it's awesome to have those media days, and I talked to Mike about that very thing because, again, when you get an opportunity to go somewhere like the college basketball experience and have media day, and not all those schools bring a lot of media with them. Here in Pittsburgh, we kind of share media with Joplin, Missouri, where Missouri Southern is, right across the state line. And so, it's not uncommon to have 2 or 3 TV stations covering our games, a couple of newspaper, a couple of local radio stations, and all that stuff. And so for the MIAA to go above and beyond and put on events like preseason media day, it's tremendous exposure for their kids. And that's what it's all about, is just trying to enhance the experience for the kids. I had a talk today with R.J. Allen. He's the men's basketball coach at Newman. They're joining the MIAA this year, and they've been in the Heartland Conference, and that's a league. The footprint went from the Panhandle of Oklahoma to Wichita, all the way to San Antonio, Texas, and it's just impossible for them to have events like this. But in the MIAA, you have a tighter footprint. You have schools and administrators and a conference administration that are committing to enhancing the experience, and so it's really awesome to see those deals, and I hope our student athletes don't take it for granted because not everybody in Division II gets that.
So going back to football, I'm a Pitt State alum. I was a cheerleader down there, 2013-14. I have a question. So going from Rampy, his offense, which we've seen Rampy's offenses, I've seen them up here with Lawrence High as well. They're explosive. When Weimers took over for Rampy, what are the big things that you've seen? You kind of touched on with the linemen. They're a little bit smaller, but what things can we look forward to seeing coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, Dave Weimers took over for Coach Rampy, and Dave moved from the defensive side of the ball to the offense, which really isn't that big of a deal because he'd been a play caller before. He's been a head coach before. And his first year in that role, we didn't have my thing, I guess, was we didn't have a strong enough identity as an offense that you can say you want 50-50 run-pass balance, but we just didn't have that identity, that consistent identity. And sometimes when you get in the fourth quarter and you're winning a game and you need to pick up first downs and grind some clock, you're not able to do that. And so going back to the split-back veer option offense with 2 tight ends and you're under center, it instills a mindset in your offensive linemen of being physical, of getting off the ball, of dishing it out. And sometimes, this day and age in college football, you forget most of the time on 1st and 10, 4 yards is a good play. And if you do that 3 times in a row, you're going to get yourself a fresh set of downs. I think a lot of offensive play callers today don't have the patience to play that way. And so whatever Coach Weimer's was doing his first year and last year, it's all different this year. Now, you'll see us go to a 4-wide single back set where we'll turn up the tempo and do some of that in games. So we are giving teams 2 completely different offenses to prepare for. But our base offense is under center, 2 tight ends, split back veer option. And it's an offense that, already this year we've seen games with anywhere from 6 to 8.5 minute scoring drives. And half the quarter is over and you get 7 points at the end of it. And then you have that effect on the other team. They feel like, well, now we have to catch up because we haven't had the ball for 6 or 7 minutes, even though it might only be a 1-score game. And so that's part of the effect of that offense. And so Pitt State, they definitely have an identity this year, and that's the big difference from the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. Also, I got to ask, chicken Annie's or Chatters?
Man, I am so partial to those chicken houses because it's what we're known for. You have six famous, if you will, chicken houses in Crawford County, and then Jim's Steakhouse is the other one at 20th and Broadway that's been around since the 1930s. And I live 2 blocks from Chatters. I can smell it every time I walk out my front door, and I love it. And I love a lot of places here, but man, it's hard for me to go against the chicken houses or Jim's Steakhouse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jim's Steakhouse. Yeah, that's a good one, too.
Fantastic. You got a prediction for this Saturday at Arrowhead?
Well, I can sit here and say, 28-21. It's going to be that kind of game. It's going to be because I think Pitt State is pretty legit on defense, and I think Northwest, they are so stout with their front 4 on defense. They make you earn everything they get, and they clog it in the middle, and they get you running flat. And then all of a sudden, you see the ability of their linebackers to flow from side to side. And so it's whoever wins this game, I fully anticipate a 28-21 kind of game. And obviously I hope we're on the right side of it. But again, it's a situation you can't beat yourself. You can't have turnovers. And you have to take advantage of opportunities you get. When you get the ball inside the other team's 30, you have to find ways to get points on the board. Pitt State has an outstanding place kicker this year, Jared Vincent. He has 50-yard range. Northwest has a very good and veteran kicker as well. And so that could absolutely factor into this. And Coach Beck will tell you, Pitt State, we have not been as good as we've needed to be in the red zone. When you look at the percentage of times we've come away with points inside the opponent's 20, it's very good, but it's only right around 50% touchdown percentage. And that needs to increase to win games like this.
Yeah, I got to visit a little bit with Coach Beck at the football media days. I was able to attend that, kind of before my season got ramped up and I got busy. But, I mean, he was excited about the year, and he was excited about the ability to play at Arrowhead this year in this matchup. How excited are you to call a game from Arrowhead? And, I mean, it's not your first one, but how is it just being in that NFL venue?
Well, when we first started playing there, I was on the sidelines, and I won't lie to you, I like that a lot better. With the Arrowhead renovations in 2011 and 12, now the radio booth is 9 stories off the ground, and you're enclosed in glass, and there's nobody in the upper deck. And so it's a very sterile feeling from my perspective. You're up there, and you don't feel like you're really a part of the atmosphere. You have a crowd mic plugged in to get some of that noise, but it's you just look at those guys out there, and they're moving like ants, and it's kind of difficult to tell hang time on a punt or separation on certain plays. And so from that standpoint, I used to kind of like it when I was on the sidelines. My oldest son, who's a freshman at Pitt State, he broadcasts on the sidelines for us now. He covers the field for us on our radio broadcast, and so I know he is excited to get that. But I'll echo the same things John Coffey said. This is all about the experience for the kids because both teams have so many kids from the Kansas City area that they grow up Chiefs fans, and the opportunity to play there. Northwest is the home team, so they get to use the home locker room. That's pretty neat. The bands, the cheerleaders he talked about. And then the importance of the Kansas City metro area to both schools, recruiting, the alumni base that's there. Pitt State has numerous alumni functions every year in the Kansas City area, and it might be a gathering at a T-Bones game. It might be just an alumni thing where they bring up some student athletes and talk before the school year starts, whatever it might be. That I know how important the Kansas City Metro is really to every school in the MIAA. but for these two to get to play the football game there, that just adds to that exposure. And so it looks like the weather's going to be great, sunny, should be a beautiful fall day, and it'll be a great atmosphere on Saturday.
Does it make you nervous going back to Arrowhead?